Okay, so now we're going to talk about the handout that's in your folder. It's talking about ethics and sensitivity. And while you're writing the 10 performance standards down, I've got them written over here on the board. And as you're writing those down, I'm going to be talking about each one. So the first one, speak politely, even or positive communication. I kind of think they kind of go hand in hand. As you're talking to somebody, you can be speaking politely and use positive communication, even if it's something they don't want to hear or they don't want to do. We can still be polite and we can talk about it positively. Or even if we receive a phone call and we're over in the corner on our own telephone, we don't need to be talking loud and inappropriately. We don't need the individuals that we serve to hear anything that's not polite or positive. So we always want, even if we're trying to prompt them into doing a task, if it's something they really don't want to do, we can still be positive and polite. Okay, include in decisions. What are we going to watch today? Where are we going to go? What would you like for your snack? Or, anything that they can decide for themselves, we want to include them in those decisions. And do for themselves, like we talked about earlier, we want them to be able to tie their shoes and put their clothes on, do laundry, or feed themselves, whatever it is, for as long as possible. We want them to be independent and not be dependent on us. So for as long as they can, we want them to be active and to do for themselves. Explain so they understand. Sometimes you may have to break it down, say it in a couple of different ways. Just explain things so they understand. And respect differences. We all have differences of opinions and style, music, whatever, but we respect each other's differences. And listen, learn to listen. Even if someone is nonverbal, you can learn to listen to the sounds that they make. You can tell by the expressions on their face. And if they are verbal, learn to listen to their language, how they explain things. So listen so you can understand and take cues on what they need by listening. Include in conversations. How was your day? Where did you go today? How was it at work today? Talk to them. Don't just be talking with coworkers and excluding them in conversations. Talk to them. Include them in conversations. Consider feelings. Everybody can get their feelings hurt, so we want to consider how we're talking to people and always be polite and consider feelings. And encourage thinking, like we were talking about earlier. We want them to be thinking for themselves and doing for themselves as long as they can. So we always want to keep them thinking and happy and just encourage that thinking for themselves. So now we're going to go back to the rest of the handout. And the rest of it is true and false. Number 2, we should incorporate the 10 performance standards in everything we do with people with disabilities. True. It is okay to talk about a person's doctor visit with other staff ahead of time. We don't have to tell the person they are going to the doctor until the last minute. False. They need to know when they're going to the doctor ahead of time. Always talk to individuals so they understand what you're talking about. True. You may have to say it a few different ways, but you want them to understand what you're talking about. We should tell individuals what to do because we do not want to encourage thinking for themselves. False. If you think a person you support should not smoke, it is okay to restrict their cigarettes. That's false. When you disagree with what the person says, you need to continue to convince the person of your opinion because you are in control. False. Support staff should always do as much as possible for the person so you don't fall behind schedule. False. You shouldn't encourage a person's fear. You should ignore those feelings because everyone has to learn to overcome their fears. False. It is okay to argue with another staff in front of a person supported because you are not talking directly to the individual. That's false. Okay, we'll end here.